Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. What a crazy, wild, weird weekend we had in the world of football, college and NFL. Obviously, college football has been the story of the weekend. College football playoff reaction. Finally, after a decade of existence, I think the committee got it dead right across the board, 1 through 4, every single one after this weekend. College football playoff set. Number 1, Michigan, followed by Washington, Texas, and most controversially, Alabama in at number 4 over Florida State. I will explain to you exactly why the Tide got in and should have gotten in over the Seminoles. I'll discuss that in about 15 to 20 minutes. Also, get into the Kansas City Chiefs, why they made a mistake this offseason that not many people are bringing up, but many defending champions make this exact same mistake. And right now, it's costing the Chiefs the same way that has for past champions. I'll get into that. Also, reaction. And by the way, too, as far as the Packers, Jordan Love, how about this kid? Okay, I've been skeptical the whole time. I can't lie about what my eyes are seeing. That the kid is playing really well. I'll explain to you exactly why that is as well in about a half hour to 45 minutes. And, of course, reaction to other games around the NFL in Week 13. Those are really the two headliners, Packers and the Chiefs, as well as the game I'm about to lead off with, Eagles and the Niners. At the end of today's show, what should have been a great quarterback matchup, but because Joe Burrow is out, it is not. No offense to Jake Browning or the Browning family, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I will predict that game at the end of the show. We got a comment here from Patrick Brown of the Grid Network. What's up, Patrick? Recently wrote a couple of pieces for the Grid Network's website. Be sure to go check those out. He says, I revel in their misery. I seen Eagles. Yeah, that looks like an eagle emoji there. So there you go. Patrick, a Cowboys fan. I imagine most people who do not like the Philadelphia Eagles did enjoy that yesterday. So let's get into that. But first, yikesters. The San Francisco 49ers mollywopped, dominated, destroyed, whatever adjective you want to use for this one. I shouldn't say from start to finish. From the second quarter on, dominated the Philadelphia Eagles and did so by a final score of 42-19. Needless to say, I didn't see this coming. As a guy who picked the Eagles, even if the Niners won this game, but it was tight, I wouldn't have been shocked. I mean, this is, again, as I keep saying, the best roster, top to bottom in the NFL. I'll talk about Philly, and in particular, Jalen Hurts in about 10 to 12 minutes, because I think people are wildly overreacting, maybe not necessarily the Eagles, but certainly to Jalen. I'll get into that in about 10 minutes. But for the 49ers first. So, because this is a very layered sort of thing. So, I go back to what I've said since the offseason, heck, really since last season, because it hasn't changed that much. Matter of fact, it's even more so the case with the Christian McCaffrey trade that happened in the middle of last season. This is the best roster top to bottom by far, not even close in the NFL. Philadelphia has a fantastic roster, as do the Baltimore Ravens. I think those are 2 and 3. You can argue Dallas. You can argue other teams out there. The Chiefs are great defensively and have 2 phenomenal players offensively. More of the Chiefs later in the show. There simply is no equal to this 49ers team in terms of talent. And it's why I said when they did what they did to the Cowboys way back in Week 5 in San Francisco, I said I think this team has the potential to be the greatest team ever in the Super Bowl era. That's not to say they go undefeated. They won't be like the 07 Patriots that came one game away from immortality. It's not the case. And I moved off this a little bit after they lost those 3 straight games. It's like, okay, team loses 3 straight. It's hard to call them one of the greatest teams ever. Hall of Fame head coach. Kyle Shanahan's going to the Hall of Fame, y'all. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame running back. Christian McCaffrey is going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. Hall of Fame tight end in George Kittle. I don't think any of us would argue he's going to be in Canton one day. The best, I have been saying this religiously on my show, the best all-around offensive player in all of football by the name of Deebo Samuel. Let's see what Deebo did yesterday. Let's check what he did. Oh, yeah, he's pretty good. 4 catches for $116, 2 touchdowns, and then 3 carries for 22 yards and another touchdown. So Mr. Deebo, got 3 tutties on the day. Congratulations to him. Exposing the Eagles secondary. I'll get to that later in the show. You've got an offensive line that has, and this isn't even I don't think any of us would debate this, one of the greatest left tackles to ever play the game in Trent Williams, who was fantastic yesterday. Defensively, Hall of Fame talent with Nick Bosa, as well as some Pro Bowl, all-pro level players, Eric Armstead, guys like Hargraves, Chase Young. two Hall of Fame level linebackers, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, that was a ridiculous ejection. I'm just going to tell you right now, crazy that Greenlaw was kicked out. And even the secondary, Javarius Ward's a Pro Bowl level player. Now, they did lose Talanoa Hufanga, you guys know I rave about. Love the kid. Trained with my man Troy Polamalu. Done for the season, unfortunately, with an injury. But yet and still, top to bottom, about as good of a roster as there is in all of football. I will continue to say what I've been saying about Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy is considered the weak link of this team, then yes, it is very much in the discussion as one of the best ever. Let's check Brock Purdy's stats for the season and more on Brock's MVP candidacy. But sturdy Purdy, pretty good. 23 touchdowns, 6 picks, best QBR in the league, best passer rating in the league, best completion percentage in the league. That'll work. This is why I argued dating back to early this season, even last year, he's just Jimmy G 2.0. I said, if you think he's Jimmy G 2.0, you're simply not watching the games. Better arm than Jimmy G, more mobile than Jimmy G, better decision maker than Jimmy G, and more trust in the coaching staff than Jimmy G. This is a kid whose arm talent is not off the charts. Really, there's nothing about Brock Purdy that is special, that blows you away. But he's like people may get mad at me for this comparison. He's like the Draymond Green of quarterbacks. He does everything pretty well. Very accurate. Good, not great arm, but good arm. Mobile enough in a league with tons of mobile quarterbacks. He'll pass. He'll pass more than Jared Goff. Love Jared. Pass more than Jared Goff. Pass more than Tua. Smart. Coachable. All the qualities you can want in a franchise quarterback. That's it. That's Brock Purdy. Do I think he's the front runner for MVP? Absolutely not. I don't think he's close to as valuable to the 49ers as Dak Prescott is to the Dallas Cowboys. Dak has CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of guys. Let's be honest. Brandon Cooks, journeyman. Jalen Tolbert struggles to get on the field. Michael Gallup, wash. Jake Ferguson, fine, not great. Offensive line, aging. Dak's far more valuable to Dallas than Purdy is to San Francisco. But like I keep saying, the only weakness of the 49ers is a conditional weakness. In that, when playing from behind, 2 scores behind, this offensive scheme, the system, even at times the quarterback, not always built to come from behind. But when they've got you down, you can forget about it. Move on to next week. Get your game plan ready. Philly, get your game plan ready at halftime for Dallas next week because it's over. When you have a pass rush that can do what they can do getting to the football, getting to the quarterback as consistently as they do. When you have an interior defensive line and linebackers that can stop the run as well as they do. When the linebackers cover as well as they do. When you have an offense that, when they get a lead, just give it to Christian McCaffrey, left side, running behind Trent Williams. Unfreaking stoppable. Get it to George Kittle on a big 3rd down and 7. Run it or throw it to Deebo Samuel. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to throw it to Juwan Jennings, you can do him. He stiff-armed a guy for a touchdown. You want to throw it to Brandon Ayuk, who has multiple 1,000-yard seasons on his resume. You could do that as well. This team, if all 32 teams in the NFL played to their absolute full potential, nobody can beat San Francisco. None of them. When they're playing from ahead, you say, well, Bryce, they play from behind. Yeah, but it was 6-0. I mean, let's be honest. 6-0 is not exactly. If I can't trust you to come back from 6-0, you probably have some deeper issues than we initially thought. So San Francisco, and props to them, props to their defense who really kind of set the tone. Because if you look at what Philadelphia did, first couple drives, they were moving it, man. Down the field, got down in the first drive to the San Francisco 8. They settled for a field goal. Next drive, got down to the San Francisco 21, close to the red zone. Again, had to settle for a field goal, and it was 6-0. So after not really doing anything offensively, despite the fact the Eagles were moving the ball at will, San Francisco looks up. It's 6-0. We're fine. We can just turn on the Jets, and what did the Niners do a couple drives after that? 11 plays touchdown, 10 plays touchdown, 7 plays touchdown, 5 plays touchdown, 12 plays touchdown, 2 plays touchdown. Next drive, they took a knee to end the game. There is no team, if both teams are playing at their best, that can knock off this football team in the San Francisco 49ers. I firmly believe that. I've said they're the best roster in the NFL all season long. I still believe that. And again, do I think Brock Purdy, is he in the MVP discussion? Yes. But again, it's hard for me to say you're the MVP when I don't believe you're the most valuable player on your own offense. I think that's Trent Williams. Okay, when Trent Williams plays, this team is virtually unbeatable. Same can be said about Christian McCaffrey. That said, you plug a top 12 quarterback into the system. This is what we always lamented with Jimmy G. Like, man, this Niners roster's loaded. Not great at quarterback, though. Imagine if you plugged, like, I don't know, Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff into this lineup. They'd be even better. Well, that's essentially what they have, except Brock Purdy is younger, less expensive, and more mobile than those guys. What can you say? We still got a long season to go. I'm not going to sit up here and act like it's a foregone conclusion. Listen, if there's anything we know about pro sports, there are no such thing as a foregone conclusion. Nothing. We're only in week 13. Super Bowl's 2 months away. There's a lot of football left to be played. But as currently constructed, fully healthy, nobody can beat this team when they're playing at their best. Dominant, highly impressive win by the 49ers, who, by the way, this season, when you look at what they've done, we all generally agree. We certainly agree that the top two contenders in the NFC, not named San Francisco, are Philadelphia and Dallas. With respect to my Detroit Lions, and I'm not a Lions fan, I just bought into them to make the NFC title game. Don't feel so good about that today, but with respect to that team, Dallas and Philadelphia is the only team with a prayer's chance of knocking off the 49ers in the playoffs. That's it. It's as far as it goes in the NFC. Let's add an AFC team that if they win tonight, people are like, oh, they a contender. Well, if they win tonight, they'll be the 1 seed. Evidently, they're doing something right, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay? How about this? The Niners have played those teams. They played Dallas. They played Philadelphia. They played Jacksonville. They beat those teams by a combined score of 118 to 32. Those are teams with top 10 quarterbacks. In the case of 2 of those teams, Dallas and Philly, top 5 quarterbacks, great coaching staffs, and they embarrassed them. 2 of them on the road in Jacksonville and Philly. Unbelievable. That is, listen, I would not, there's a reason the Niners were favored clearly on the road. I don't know how you can't be impressed with what they did yesterday, and I honestly don't know if there's an argument today. As much as I buy into Dallas, and I'm just going to stick with my pick of them getting to the Super Bowl, and as much as I love what Philadelphia is doing, in particular Jalen Hurts, it's almost impossible to make an argument that either of those teams are better when you consider both of them played San Francisco and got the doors blown off of them. What a win by the Niners. One of the more impressive of the NFL season. Now, I did want to transition, though. Let's transition to Philadelphia, team that lost the game. So, again, I think there's a little bit too much of a panic mode for the Eagles. Fact of the matter is they are still the 1 seed in the NFC. They do have currently the best record in all of football. And, folks, even if they lose to Dallas next week, they still have the edge currently for tiebreakers in the division in the NFC East. And then they finish their season at Seattle, who's floundering right now, and then Giants twice Arizona. So Philadelphia's going to be fine. They're going to be in the playoffs. They've already won double-digit games. They have a great shot to win the NFC East, although Dallas may very well have something to say about that. Only time will tell. The thing that I am a little bothered with the double standard with quarterbacks sometimes is when the resumes look almost identical in the last 3 years, but we look at one as so infinitely superior to the other. I'm talking about Dak Prescott, and I'm talking about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, who did have a rough day at the office. That's putting it mildly. Okay, his stats look fine, 26, 45 to 98. He got a bunch of that in garbage time. They got a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Game was over. Game was over. Okay, and only rushed for 20 yards. Actually got hurt at one point in the game. It looks like he's going to be fine physically. He cleared concussion protocol. Good news for Jalen Hurts and for the Eagles. I could have sworn, we can go check the footage, that when the Cowboys lost 42-10 to the Niners back in week 5, it was the skies falling. Oh, they got to trade Dak Prescott. He's not the answer. Truly elite quarterbacks could have beaten this Niners team, which, by the way, Joe Burrow did. Here's the thing. Joe Burrow's the second best quarterback in football, and it's not close. It's Mahomes, it's Burrow, and he got about 4 quarterbacks gunning for third. That's it. It's a mad dash for third place between about 4 or 5 quarterbacks somewhere in that ilk. It's Mahomes and Burrow. It's their league. Every other quarterback, with the weird exception of Kirk Cousins, who weirdly did it on a Monday night game, which sounds odd, before Kirk went down. No great quarterback succeeds against this San Francisco defense. Trevor Lawrence was terrible. Had his worst game of the year against them. Dak Prescott, terrible. Had his worst game of the year against them. Jalen Hurts, aside from the Jets game, terrible. Arguably his worst game of the year. But all of a sudden, we don't want to trade Jalen Hurts and take him completely out of the MVP discussion we did with Dak. Listen, I as a Dak guy, I pretty much used to the double standard and lack of consistency at this point. But for Philadelphia, so spoiler alert, Wednesday show. Every Wednesday I do a segment. It's called Bryson's Best 10. It's my top 10 teams in the NFL every week. Spoiler, the Niners are one. Okay, I don't think that shocks anybody. I'm not going to move the Eagles. I'm not going to reveal yet where I've got the Eagles. I'm not going to move them down that far because I think they're elite in a lot of areas. And to me, you got to be elite in more ways than you're not elite in order to be a contender. Jalen Hurts is awesome. Okay, one bad game does not suddenly change my opinion. He's a phenomenal fourth quarter quarterback. He's got, I forgot, up until yesterday, he had like 14 straight wins against teams with winning record. If you're arguing Jalen Hurts is elite, but at this point, go argue with the wall. It's not even a discussion. A.J. Brown, you saw yesterday, was one of the few bright spots to the Eagles. A.J. Brown, I thought, played very well. First drive down to the last drive. He was good. Devontae Smith has a Heisman Trophy on his shelf. He's a very good player. They'll get Dallas Goedert back soon. They still have arguably the best offensive line in the league. Did you see, by the way, what Lane Johnson was doing to Nick Bosa? Nick Bosa, one of the premier pass rushers in all of football, to me, in the top three behind Watt and Garrett. Lane Johnson shut him down. I mean, there were plays where Nick is trying to get pressure on Hurts, and he's on the ground. Not Hurts, Bosa. After, considering what the Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer Lane Johnson was doing to him. Running the football, it's iffy, but Philadelphia is the type of team that with that offensive line, with Jalen Hurts, like, it's one of their strong suits historically. I think they'll eventually get it right. Pass rush, I still like them. Montez Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter. I like them in that area. And by the way, guess what the Eagles just did today? They signed Shaq Leonard, one of the premier linebackers in the league. Here's the problem. And I have been beating this drum for a while. This Eagles pass defense, abysmal. Abysmal. And I should have seen this coming for this game in particular to what Brock Purdy and those weapons were going to do. But I thought Philadelphia would be able to play from behind. They were not able to this week. But let's see what opposing quarterbacks have done to this Philadelphia defense, okay? It starts off, and this is when I knew. Go back to the tape. Check the tape. In week one, and I'm not for sounding alarm bells in week one. It's week one. We still got 17 weeks to go. In week one, I said, uh-oh, that's not good. A man by the name, maybe you've heard of him, Michael McCorkle-Jones, known as well, Mac Jones, okay? 316 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a pass rating almost at 100. Mac Jones did that against this Eagles defense. 4 days later, good quarterback. Matter of fact, very good quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Threw 4 touchdowns, no picks, and had over 350 yards passing, did Kirk Cousins against this Eagles defense, and had a pass rating of 125. Baker struggled, but then Sam Howell, don't love him, okay? There's some things I like about him. Sam Howell had a pass rating of 98 against this Eagles defense. 2 weeks later, Zach Wilson outplayed Jalen Hurts, although Zach didn't put together the greatest performance. No touchdowns, no picks. After that, Sam Howell again 2 weeks after that, okay? Sam Howell, 4 touchdown passing, almost 400 yards through the air, pass rating of 114. Dak Prescott, 3 touchdowns through the air, no interceptions, pass rating of 115. Next game, Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes struggled, but a lot of that was due to the drops, so you sort of chalk that up as whatever. Josh Allen with no number 2 receiver. Stephon Diggs, and that's it. What did Josh Allen do? Well, he hung 34 in this defense, had 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdown rushing, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 82. And then yesterday, Brock Purdy almost had a perfect pass rating, 148, 4 touchdowns passing, and a QBR just like Mr. Allen of 82. This will plague this team moving forward. If the Eagles are to go anywhere, they're elite in a lot of areas. They will have to overcome their pass defense. They tried, and to their credit, to Howie Roseman, who's the best or second best general manager in the sport, he tried to address it at the deadline by going in and getting Kevin Bynard from the Tennessee Titans. It's made virtually no impact. And I think Kevin Bynard's a really good player. It's made no impact whatsoever to this point, aside from the Chiefs game, which was in wet weather, and Mahomes' receivers could not catch a pass to save their lives, and Mahomes threw a terrible red zone interception before that. Philly's going to be fine. I don't think this is any situation. Frankly, if they lose to Dallas next week, I'm still not panicking on Philadelphia in terms of their ability to compete for a championship. They're elite in a lot of areas. Second or third best roster in football. They will have to win shootouts, which, if you're an Eagles fan, good news is you've won a lot of shootouts this year. Can you do it with San Francisco was the question. It feels like everybody, Dallas and Philly in particular, are kind of chasing the Niners. Highly impressive win by San Francisco. Not panicking on Philly. But I will say, though, I would like that same energy. I would like that same energy that you gave Dak Prescott. I'd like to hear for Jalen Hurts. That is neither here nor there. Don't even know why I brought that up. I got to stop talking now. Let's check some comments. See what y'all think. Patrick, cry Eagles cry. Niners are clearly, in all caps, the best team in the NFC. Once I saw the Niners wore all black going to the game, it was strictly business. From there, Philly had no chance in winning this game. Ryan Flowers, yak, yards after the catch. You don't say. Deebo Samuel got a lot of yak yesterday. Patrick, it was a beautiful night to see Nick Smirkiani. That's interesting. Not clap while say, how about them Eagles? I loved every minute of it. Okay, yeah, Ryan is saying, not saying he, meaning Brock Purdy, is bad. He is a good quarterback, but he is an elite. No, I don't think. At one point in the season, I said he was elite, and after the 3-game losing streak, and given how San Francisco could not play from behind, I backed off that position. I still think Brock Purdy is I put him in the very good category. So like fringe top 10, around 11, 12, that area. His surroundings certainly don't hurt. There's no question about that. But Ryan says, 49ers scary, so physical. You don't say. 6-0 after giving up only 2 field goals. Those red zone touchdowns are devastating to a team. Yeah, red zone offense has been really plaguing a lot of teams this year. It's been, which listen, field shrinks, so yeah, that's how it goes. That's the Cowboys' problem. If the Cowboys are able to figure out how to score in the red zone, and particularly more touchdowns, the Cowboys will be scary as well. I'm not quite as, now red zone has been a problem in Dallas, so that's totally fair. I do think that they will get that fixed eventually because of what Dak's been able to do, especially outside the pocket and with his legs. It's the defense I'm a little bit concerned about in Dallas, but to their credit, they were great in the fourth quarter against Seattle. And Ryan, by the way, I should mention this, Ryan Flowers of Clutch Sports Talk had a great show yesterday, live every Sunday morning on the Grid Network, best NFL show in town, Clutch Sports Talk. Check my man out on YouTube. He says, my MVP list, Dak, Tyreek, and Purdy. Sounds fair. I think Hurts has to be in that discussion. Mahomes probably played himself out of the MVP race yesterday. I don't think Lamar's in it. Listen, if Lamar balls out these next 2 games without Mark Andrews, then you'll have to slide Lamar in as well, given the team success as well by the Ravens. But I think that's a pretty good list, Ryan. Tyreek, what he's doing is just insane. He's probably about to become the first 2,000-yard receiver in the history of the National Football League, and I'm 100% with you. I think Dak is obviously, by a pretty comfortable margin, the front runner for the most valuable player. And again, I'm a guy who takes the V word in a lot more into consideration than most do, the valuable part. Okay. Maybe that's a character, maybe that's a character flaw that I always take people at their word, or at least the award at their word, most valuable player. I don't know. I'm just asking for consistency there, but I'm 100% with you, Ryan. It is very obviously Dak Prescott today as the most valuable player in the NFL. No doubt about it. And listen, can Hurts play himself back in next week? Sure he can. If Hurts comes into Dallas, outplays Dak, given that he's got a tougher pass defense to face than Dak does, then you may have to have a conversation. But, man, that's going to be a fun game in Dallas next week. Dallas today is a 3.5-point favorite. That sounds about right. That's me and my dad were talking about that yesterday. Like, what do you think the line's going to be? I had it around 4, Dad. My dad had it at 3.5. Shout out, Dad. And he's 100% right. And obviously, the line is subject to change. But as of right now, it is Cowboys minus 3.5. And that will be a doozy. From Jerry World. It'll be a fun one for sure. I'm just looking at the next week's schedule. I got Jaguars, Browns is interesting. You got, what else we have here? Lions, Bears, always going to see Justin Fields. Seahawks, Niners, Bills, Chiefs is a big one. Broncos, Chargers is a potential elimination game. So, interesting games in week 14. And unfortunately, it starts with Patriots and Steelers. And I say this as a Steelers fan. My condolences to all those who will take time out of their day to watch whatever the heck's going to go down at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, PA on Thursday. Oof. The Steelers fan, man, I'm not looking forward to it. Let's shift to college football, though, because that's been the topic of discussion. And then I'll talk Chiefs Packers, but I think this is it was the topic of discussion. It was the story of all the weekend in sports, in the world of sports, is the fact that the Alabama Crimson Tide got into the college football playoff over the Florida State Seminoles. Alabama won their conference championship game, the SEC championship game, by a final score of 27-24 over, the number 1 team in America and a team on a 29-game win streak in Georgia, who happened to be the back-to-back national champions. Florida State, on the other hand, beat Louisville, who lost to Kentucky, by the way, 16-6 in the ACC championship game. And needless to say, there's been a lot of outrage because of the fact that Florida State was undefeated, because of the fact that Florida State was undefeated in a Power 5 conference. Meanwhile, Alabama 12-1 as a Tennessee guy, an admittedly down year in the SEC. Pac-12 was far and away not even close to the best conference in college football this year. Big Ten, because of the dominance of Michigan and how good Ohio State was, you could maybe argue was second. SEC, a comfortable spot in third. I would certainly put it ahead of the Big 12, and dang sure I'd put it ahead of the ACC. But there's a lot of outrage. I mean, I saw Florida State's athletic director, I think it was the athletic director, say that by putting Alabama in over Florida State, the College Football Playoff Committee has shamed college football. Oh, give me a break. For the first time since the playoff was instituted in 2014, I can honest to God say that after championship weekend, after the totality of the season, I 100% agree 1-4. I don't even disagree with the ranking. Like sometimes I think this team's better than this team. 1-4, 1000% agree. And there's 5 reasons why I think Alabama is and should be in over Florida State. Let's look at number 1. First of all, Alabama's strength of schedule beats Florida State's by a mile, and it's not even close. Okay? Alabama had the number 5 ranked strength of schedule in all of college football. Florida State's was 55th. Because in large part, they played in the worst Power 5 conference by a mile in the ACC. Florida State's key wins. LSU, solid. It's a good win. I'll give you props where it's due. Way back in week 1, Jordan Travis was healthy. They knocked off Clemson on the road. Clemson, who's ranked 22nd, got real hot at the end of the year. Boy, that's big year for Clemson, right? Given their history. 8-4. Wow, I'm impressed. And then finally in the conference title game, they knocked off Louisville. You say, oh, Louisville, double-digit wins. And Louisville lost to a team that finished in the middle of their division. Forget conference, division. The SEC East, Kentucky, who went into Louisville and beat them straight up. And Florida State beat that team, offensively challenged, to say the very least, 16-6. Meanwhile, Alabama also beat LSU, although admittedly, well, this doesn't mean admittedly, this is just the facts, not by as much as Florida State, but they knocked off Ole Miss. Where's Ole Miss ranked today? Oh, look at the Ole Miss Rebels right there. Ole Miss is ranked at number 11. They beat LSU, as I just mentioned, ranked number 13. They even beat my Tennessee Volunteers, ranked 21st in the nation. And let's see, who was that team they beat on Saturday? Oh, yeah, number 1. The best team in America all season long until Selection Sunday, the Georgia Bulldogs, who just so happened to win 29 straight games and the last 2 national championships. And Alabama went into what might as well have been a glorified road game in Atlanta, SEC title game, and physically dominated them. That was a 10-point game with just a few minutes left. The score is not indicative of how well Alabama played. Second reason Alabama is in and should be in over Florida State. Number 2, Florida State is on a 3rd-string quarterback, of which the committee takes into it's under their rules, it's under their bylaws in terms of what they look at when it comes to them voting a team in or out of the college football playoff. Jordan Travis, and this freaking sucks. Hate it for the kid. He's a really good kid, mature kid. Was playing so well this season. I actually liked him kind of as an NFL prospect before he went down. But he went down second of last week of the season for Florida State. That hurts. And Florida State fans say, wait a minute, Bryson. So we go undefeated, okay, and we lose our starting quarterback. But we went undefeated and won our conference title game. Didn't Ohio State in the very first year of the playoff? Didn't the Ohio State Buckeyes have a kid by the name of Cardale Jones, who was their 3rd-string quarterback in, and make the college football playoff after winning their conference title game? Didn't they get in? What? Glad you asked. Glad you asked the question, because the answer is yes, they did. They got in as the number 4 team. Here's the difference. Florida State won their conference title game 16-6. Ohio State, with their 3rd-string quarterback, won 59-0. And of course, Ohio State validated what the committee thought by going on to win it all, by beating Alabama and beating Oregon. That's when Ezekiel Elliott went on that crazy, one-man run. It was running for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns a game. It was ridiculous what that guy was doing. So yes, them being on a 3rd-string quarterback, that matters. If you want to check what Florida State did against their last 2 opponents, okay? Forget unranked Florida. Non-bowl eligible Florida. Let's see what the Seminoles did. Let's just, because I'm hearing, Florida State, they're one of the 4 best teams. They played Florida, won by 9. Florida State did not make a bowl game, mind you. And the Florida State Seminoles put up 224 yards of offense. And then against Louisville, they scored 16 points. And their quarterback threw for 55 yards. Yeah, that matters. Having a third-string quarterback, having key players out, which the committee very clearly detailed. If you weren't aware about that, Florida State fans or Florida State defenders, that's on you. Committee's always had this. Third reason Bama got in over Florida State. Alabama clearly has a legitimate shot at a title. You know what? Don't take my word for it. What do I know? I'm just some podcaster. Take the team that they're going to be playing in a few weeks' time in the semifinal game in the Rose Bowl. Number 1, Michigan. By the way, Michigan, best team in America, start to finish. Number 1. And here was Michigan's reaction when they heard they were not playing Florida State. They were playing Alabama. Here's what Michigan thought. Who's number 4? You could just feel the air taken out of the room. That's not to say Bama's going to win, but let's check the odds, shall we? The Michigan Wolverines are favored against Alabama, as you would might imagine, 1 versus 4 by 1.5. Yeah, Bama's got a shot. The beauty is this is one of those rare playoffs. I think all 4 teams have a legitimate shot to win it all. I think Michigan's the best team. Michigan was my preseason pick to win it all. Washington can win it all with the quarterback play and how their defense has been playing as well coached as they are. Same can be said about Texas. What a defense they have. Offensive skill position players loaded. And Alabama, great defense, phenomenal secondary, and a great situational offense with Jalen Milroe, who's simply gotten better since that week 2 loss against Texas. That's number 3. Number 4, the 4th reason Alabama got in over Florida State. Let's look. Florida State's best win is Alabama's 3rd best win. Florida State beat LSU. Oh, Alabama's like, oh, cute. Yeah, that's our 3rd best. Our 2nd best was Ole Miss, who we physically dominated and held a great offense at Ole Miss to 10 points. And our best win, again, as previously mentioned, was against the back-to-back champs, number 1, 29 straight win, Georgia. That, playoff has told us for years, strength of schedule matters, who you beat matters. They've been telling us that for a long time. So if you're shocked that they put in the team with a much better resume, clearly better resume, and it's hard to do much better than beating the best. I mean, it's there's no higher ranking than Georgia to this point until Michigan, of course, took their place because Alabama beat them. That matters as well. And 5th, and I would almost argue most importantly, the 5th reason Bama got in over Florida State, and I'm telling you, Florida State people are going to lose their minds when I say this. 5th reason, Cincinnati in 2021 and TCU in 2022. Yeah, that matters too. You don't think the committee went back? Maybe they didn't look at Cincinnati as much as TCU, but I'm sure it factored where it was Bama was number 1, Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, and this undefeated, by the way, not even a Power 5 champion, Cincinnati, which to me made it even more outrageous. Undefeated Cincinnati. Yeah, we don't really think they're one of the 4 best teams. We really don't, but I mean, we can't punish an undefeated team, can we? Even though they have literally 1 signature win on the resume, we got to put them in. They lost 27-6 and barely registered 200 yards of offense, and Bama cruised to a win. And even better last year, TCU. And to TCU's credit, they beat Michigan in the semifinal game. Now, Michigan literally imploded, but they beat Michigan. Give credit where credit's due. Then they faced Georgia, and they lost by nearly 60. That, to me, that TCU loss to Georgia, you think college football fans, you think the committee, you think Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit were rooting for that? You think they were everybody outside of Athens, Georgia, and Georgia fans were miserable during the national title game? Especially when you consider the fact that Georgia had just gotten done with a, pardon the pun, so to speak, but a dogfight against number 4 ranked Ohio State, who happened to have this guy by the name of CJ Stroud, barely escaped with the win against the Buckeyes. And the next week, yeah, that game was over like 15 minutes in against TCU. That 65-7 blowout by Georgia changed everything. That was the wake-up call that the committee that I've been beating this table about for a long time, but finally the committee got it through their heads. Let's put the 4 best teams in. Let's make strength of schedule matter. Let's be honest, how you look matter. You don't think Ohio State, who was ranked number 5 in 2014 with a third-string quarterback, and the rules were the same then as they are now. Rules didn't change overnight, according, contrary to what you might hear from Florida State fans and defenders. Ohio State was very aware. We can't only win, we got to win convincingly, and they won 59-0 over ranked Wisconsin to in the Big Ten title game. That mattered. Committee put them in. Ohio State won the national championship. Let's be honest, Florida State fans, do you really think, let's be honest, media who's just outraged about this, do you really think Florida State could even physically compete for Michigan for a quarter? Because I don't. Not with a third stringer. Frankly, it would have been dicey even with Jordan Travis. Alabama is clearly better than Florida State. The evidence is there. Our eyeballs are there. You beat Louisville 16-6 with not a single impressive win beyond LSU, which impressive, yes. That's where it ended. So no, it doesn't matter if you won. And I'm here to, now the games don't matter. No, they matter, but style points also matter. I mean, let's be real. If Florida State had gone through the ACC 4 years ago that Clemson had to go through, when Clemson was making their run, why do you think Clemson was ranked first or second all those years? Because all those teams in the ACC were legit. They're not now. Now, will the ACC make a comeback? I don't know. It may. Maybe Clemson is able to get its act together at some point. Who knows? Bama's obviously, and I'm hearing this, they just had to put an SEC team in. Well, listen, if they're looking at history, then, well, yeah, of course they should put an SEC team in. They've won, I think was it 12 of the last 17 championships? Bama's won God knows how many. LSU has won a national title. So has Georgia. Georgia's won too. I mean, what are we doing? Yes, Bama's better than Florida State by a lot, given their strength of schedule, resume, the whole bit. Listen, I didn't think the playoff committee had the guts to do it. I really didn't. I thought they caved to peer pressure once again by the outraged media and fans today. Stuck to their guns, righted the wrongs of 2021 and 2022. And guess what, Florida State fans and college football media? All of our problems get erased next year. It's a 12-team playoff. 12-team playoff. We don't have to worry about this in 2024. The best 4 teams got in. One could argue Georgia probably still should have been in, but they weren't. Let's see what the comments say. My man, Patrick Brown, who, by the way, is a Florida State fan. He says, I wasn't shocked nor surprised my Seminoles didn't make it. Once Jordan Travis went down, I knew it was over. Yeah, I mean, maybe so. And the thing is with Florida State, by the way, this is interesting too. Now, Florida State ended up winning that game that Travis went down. Let me check that they ended up winning big. It was, North Alabama. They won 58-13. They were trailing 13-0 after the first quarter. Okay, I'm not saying that should matter a whole lot, but it's not insignificant. So, yeah, I mean, the offense was bound to flounder with the backup, but certainly with the third stringer. The folks they threw for 55 yards, they would have gotten demolished by Michigan. Let's see what we got. Darian Hopkins. What's up, Darian? He's on the Grid Network. He says, so it's more about, I'm confused, Darian. He said, it's more about points than winning because it shouldn't matter how you, well, of course it should matter how you win a game. It should. The TCU game changed everything. It's not just that they lost. Yes, the win column and the loss column are going to look exactly the same, but they're not all wins and losses are created equal. If anything, this should encourage teams like Florida State. And by the way, with this interconference, with these conference realignments, with NIL, teams are scheduling tougher games, and they will, by the way. That's the beauty of college football. Because you'll have more margin for error with this new 12-team playoff, you'll have more of these great teams scheduling games with other great teams. That's why the Big Ten is going to be insane in moving forward with USC and UCLA, Oregon, Washington. It's going to be crazy loaded. Not to mention a coast-to-coast conference. So listen, as an SEC guy, love the SEC. It ain't going to be the Big Ten. At least top to bottom. In terms of the depth, it's not going to be the Big Ten. Darian says Bama will, let's see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, Bama will lose. They may very well lose. But I saw them play the top dog of college football, no pun intended, Georgia fans, the top dog of college football the last not 1, not 2, but 3 years, physically dominated them from start to finish. Meanwhile, Florida State played Louisville, who just lost to, let's see, how many games did Kentucky win? 6, 7? Yeah, Kentucky this year. The Kentucky Wildcats, hold on, I'm pulling this up. Yeah, they won. No, if I can pull it up, where the heck is Kentucky's record? They 7-5? Yeah, 7-5. There you go. Louisville lost to that team. That was actually a game towards the end. So, yes, how you win 1,000% matters. Patrick, the committee wasn't going to make the same mistake again, as you said, with Cincinnati, or stated, with Cincinnati and TCU. It's what, I said it last week, and I led off last Wednesday's segment when they put Florida State at number 4. I said, it's like you see on social media, if somebody puts a really stupid comment on an Instagram post or something, some people will respond, hey, buddy, there's still time to delete this. You hear that, especially amongst my generation, Gen Z. There's still time to delete this. I said, College Football Playoff Committee, still time to delete this. Don't make the same mistake you did in 2021 and in 2022 and putting in either undefeated team or a 12-win at conference. I'm sorry, TCU didn't even win their conference championship, which made it even worse. But a 12-win team from a terrible conference because, well, I mean, what do you got to do? You got to win the games that are in front of you. By the way, people act like that's the only precedent that the playoff broke. Georgia was number 1 start to finish until last week, lost, got booted, fell 5 spots. You want to talk about outrageous? Outrageous, you could maybe argue that. I wouldn't. I believe they got the 4 best teams in there. But that they broke precedent there. That's never happened. So let's be honest. They, in the swan song of the 4-team playoff, they went out with a bang, and they did so in clearly correct fashion. Patrick Brown, I'm an unbiased FSU fan and didn't mope about it. The eye test told me Alabama was, and he put this in all caps, clearly better than FSU. And props to you, Patrick, for being unbiased. Like, it's, look, I get you, and by you, I'm not talking to you, Patrick, I'm talking about to Florida State fans. I get you want your team to be in the playoff, and I get the argument, hey, crap, we won all of our games. What do you want us to do? Play better? And listen, the Jordan Travis thing, people say, well, that's not out of our control. That's out of our control. Nobody said it was in your control. Ish happens sometimes in college sports and in life. When we get into this, like I heard my man Colin Cowher was on TV today, and I thought Colin made a great point. He said, once we get into the business of deserving, now we get a little dicey. Oh, they deserve to win. Yeah, but what about the other team that went through significantly more? Oh, they just happened to lose to Texas, who's 3rd, who's in the college football playoff themselves, Patrick, Michigan is on a mission to win it all. I have at least one team in the playoff. Go Wolverines. They sure seem that way. And they were on a mission before the season started. Now with the whole thing, the allegations with Harbaugh and everything, yeah, you could see that the visible emotion after some of these wins against Penn State, against Ohio State, in the conference title game against Iowa. By the way, my Vols play Iowa New Year's Day, Citrus Bowl. Very excited. I'm a little nervous for that game, y'all. I'm not going to lie. Not that y'all care about the freaking Citrus Bowl. But listen, the Vol View will come back at that point. Vol View will be back in a month. Or not really a month. It's just really more like a few weeks. But listen, Iowa's defense is incredible. I mean, they held a very good Michigan offense to 26. And, I mean, 26 is still pretty good. But still, 26 is 26. But obviously, they got shut out because their offense isn't capable of doing anything. I mean, again, I keep saying Iowa is the Pittsburgh Steelers of college football, okay? The uniforms look the same. The style of football looks the same. And because of it, they can't go anywhere. Anywhere. And you saw what Michigan did to them on Saturday night in Indianapolis. That was, I don't think they caught anybody off guard. And although Michigan was like a 22, 23-point favorite, so they were able to cover there at the end. So those who took Michigan to cover, good for you, because they were able to get it done. But yeah, I'm just, like, again, to repeat what Colin said, if we get into the business of who deserves to get in, sports, life, it's about earning crap. You know what I'm saying? You got to earn stuff. Florida State didn't earn it. They didn't. It would be the equivalent of 2021 Cincinnati and 2022 TCU. All right, let's move on back to the NFL. But before I do, we got a comment. William Wells is in the comments. Looks like he's talking about the Eagles. He says, seems the Eagles' luck has run out. Winning over Buffalo because of a horse collar not called would have led to a touchdown in Buffalo. Winning should have lost to Washington twice. Lucked. Well, again, William, I said last Monday when Philadelphia beat Buffalo, I said, is Philadelphia lucky? No question about it. But I did not view you be hard. Here's the thing. There has never been in the history of the world, in the history of sports, there's never been a champion/great team that hasn't gotten a little lucky. You're like, Bryson, never? Yes, they were healthy. Bare minimum, you're lucky if you're healthy, because football, especially in football, it's a violent game. I had a basketball coach once tell me that football is not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. Basketball is a contact sport, football is a collision sport. So I don't view the Eagles' luck. I'll put your comment back up here, William, real quick. There we go. Yeah, I don't view the Eagles' luck as a reason I shouldn't believe in them, so to speak, as being a contender. Did they get lucky? Sure. But, and certainly no amount of luck was going to win them that game against the 49ers yesterday. They were physically dominated from start to finish. But yeah, they didn't, again, I guess what I'm saying is they didn't win just because of luck. That's kind of the case that I'm making. But I understand what you're saying. I did want to transition, though, back to the NFL. The Sunday night game. Did not see this coming. Packers, the Green Bay Packers. My sister's a huge Packers fan. She's been giving it to me for the last 24 hours. It's not great for me. But Green Bay beat Kansas City, the defending champs, 27-19 in historic Lambeau Field. Let's start with the Packers, then I'll transition to Kansas City, because there's a larger point with Kansas City beyond just this loss and even this season that a mistake a lot of defending champions make, and the Chiefs made it this past offseason. But for the Packers, so again, it's a long season. It's cliche, but it's a long season in the NFL. I wrote the Packers off for dead before game one, before week one of the season. I said, I don't think this is a playoff team. I think this is a 6-win team, and Jordan Love is going to struggle. That has obviously not been the case in the last 3 weeks. They just got to the win total I had for them coming in at 6. They are 6-6, and currently they are the 7 seed in the NFC. If the playoffs start today, they be in. Now, I don't know if at least as the playoffs sit here today, I don't know if being the 7 seed is necessarily the greatest thing ever, because you're just going to have to play an extra week and get destroyed by San Francisco. But nevertheless, Green Bay's in if the season ends today, while we have 5 weeks left of the regular year. But Jordan Love was about as good as you could have possibly asked for. 25 of 36, 267 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a QBR of 90 from 0 to 100, a pass rating of 118. And by the way, he happened to be this week's highest graded quarterback by Pro Football Focus. So Jordan Love was about as good as you could have possibly asked for, given the fact that Kansas City's defense had not given up. I think the stat was, and I mentioned it on Friday's show, the Chiefs had not given up 25 or more points in a game all season long. Jordan Love and the Packers put up 27. So what's part of the reason that the Packers have gone on this 3-game winning streak to get their season back on track, and really to get Jordan Love back on track? Because if you look at this 3-game winning streak, okay, so he played great against the Chargers defense, okay, had a pass rating over 100, couple touchdowns, including the game winner to Romeo Doubs. 4 days later against the Detroit Lions. Again, kind of a floundering defense, certainly like the Chargers are. But listen, 3 touchdown passes, pass rating of 125, QBR of 91. That was the test against Kansas City, because the Chiefs' offense had gotten in order. That's where you give the Packers' defense credit. But this Chiefs' defense has been amazing. Now they've suffered some injuries. Drew Tranquill went down. I'm not sure how long he's going to be gone. Nick Bolton's out, but even still, Chris Jones was healthy. You had McDuffie, you had Snead, you have most of their secondary guys good and ready to go. What Matt LaFleur has done, and I've never been a LaFleur guy. I don't trust him in situationally in late games, probably more than any coach in the NFL. Not named Brandon Staley. I mean, he's not good in late game situations in the playoffs. However, is it possible that he managed Jordan Love for, again, I'm not giving him this is basically his rookie year excuse the way other people do. It's like, he's been sitting for 3 years. He should be ready by this point. That's why I was incredibly unimpressed with the first couple months of the season. Is it possible that Matt LaFleur took a similar approach as Mike McCarthy did with Dak Prescott, where it was, which Dak is way better than Love, but still, follow me here. We're going to ease Dak in. This is a new offense. And then after the Niners lost, we're like, screw it, Dak, let her rip, buddy. And he's been the MVP of the league ever since. Now, Jordan Love is certainly not that, but he's turned it around big time. Again, in his last in this 3-game winning streak, he has 8 touchdowns and no picks. Like, that's pretty good. That's about as good as you can ask for from a player like Love. They've allowed him to cut it loose. And you know what's going to come with that? Some bad interceptions. I mean, there was a couple of plays in that game where you're like wincing. You're like, oh, boy, that was close. Oh, Jordan Love just about threw the game away or threw the pass right to the Kansas City Chiefs. There was a few of those. But the good throws, I mean, there was one. We don't have the video of it, but there was one. I think it was at the end of the first half against, it was in the third quarter. It was a throw to Christian Watson. No, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Okay, I'm sorry. It was in the second quarter, midway through the second quarter. He threw a touchdown pass to Christian Watson. I mean, back foot. Sorry, really neither of his feet on the ground. He didn't have a throwing platform. Fading away. I mean, you could not have put the ball in a better spot. Just a dot. And Watson, who unfortunately got hurt late game, he's been dealing with some hamstring issues. Hopefully he's going to be okay and good to go. But listen, for Green Bay, A.J. Dillon ran the football pretty effectively. They had 129 yards as a team on the ground with no Aaron Jones. Romeo, up until the injury, was looking more comfortable. They got that one kid, Wicks, who I like. Jaden Reed is kind of their guy that they use on end arounds and plays like that. I'm sorry, was it Reed? Yeah, it was Reed. They use on some like end around, some pass plays between Love and him. They've got the weapons. They've done good at drafting at tight end. And by the way, again, the Packers defense in this 3-game winning streak has been really good. Rashawn Gary's played good football. Again, they got a good secondary, but 20 points against the Chargers, 22. And again, a little bit of an asterisk there because the Lions had 15 with under a minute left to go. They got a garbage time touchdown. And then yesterday, a Chiefs offense that I said last week, hey, it looks like they've gotten their act back together, held them to 19. Again, more on the Chiefs in just a second, but they've allowed Jordan Love to kind of cut it loose and that's kind of how he was at Utah State. And that's why I wasn't terribly high on him at coming out of college. I'm like, the footwork, but big arm. There's some plays. I mean, you see, even when Jordan Love wasn't playing well, I don't know if it's a Green Bay thing, but like even the movement, the kind of twitchiness was a little Aaron Rodgers-esque. Now, Love isn't going to be no Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, NBC was putting up some graphics and some stats saying, hey, the Packers might have found their third straight Hall of Fame quarterback. I think it's a bit too premature, like 5-10 years too premature to put that in the discussion. But they've allowed him to play into his strengths, and that's what all good to great coaches do. Again, I don't think LaFleur's a great coach, but in LaFleur's defense, hasn't lost a game in December. And again, I still don't trust him situationally. So that's the thing that could do the Packers in. But if you look at the 3 teams in the NFC, and by the way, Minnesota's 6-6. So we'll see what happens. They may bench Joshua Dobbs, which I'm here to tell you will be a huge mistake. But if you look at the playoffs right now, okay, in the NFC, if we can pull them, if I can pull up here. Yeah, here we go. Playoffs in the NFC. The 4, 6, and 6 teams, Packers probably have the easiest schedule. They got at the Giants and Tommy DeVito. Potentially Tyrod Taylor may play. Tampa Bay, at Carolina, worst team in the league. At Minnesota on a Sunday night on New Year's Eve. That could decide a playoff spot, literally. And then they face the Bears, who we all know the Packers literally own the Bears. On the other hand, the Rams, you look at their schedule. Rams won yesterday against Cleveland. I was very impressed. Stafford and the offense played very well. Oh, crap. Rams got to play the Ravens on Sunday. Oh, shoot. Last game of the year, they got to go to San Francisco. Now, I don't expect San Francisco to dominate the Rams because divisional familiarity, 2 great coaches with Shanahan and with Sean McVay. But at the same time, that is no easy stretch. There's no easy game in the NFL, even if you're playing the Panthers. Everybody's a professional. But listen, the Rams' closing schedule is brutal. If you look at the Minnesota Vikings, they do play the Packers, and it's a home game, so you factor that in consideration. But they play the Lions twice into the last 3 weeks of the season. Detroit's 9-3. And then you look, worst of all, at the Seattle Seahawks. Here's their closing schedule. At San Francisco, home, but against the freaking Eagles. At Tennessee, we always know the Titans almost won yesterday. Can be very, very frisky at home. Play my Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know the Steelers don't have an offense to speak of, but that defense is still great. And that at Arizona, who just beat my Steelers. So the Seattle's closing stretch is brutal. The Rams is difficult. The Vikings is pretty difficult. Packers kind of easy. Once again, Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. They can go 4-1 that stretch and go 10-7 and make the playoffs. Sure, they can. Jordan Love keeps playing like this. The defense keeps doing what they're doing. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like the Packers are like a Super Bowl contender. They're not even the same league as Detroit. Certainly not as San Fran, Dallas, and Philly. There's no doubt about that. Before I get to Kansas City, though, let's check the comments. Let's see what we got. Yeah, Patrick, to see Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles, love it. You're the great Simone Biles. Jonathan Owens was active yesterday in that game. Jordan Love has shown maturity and poise. Great point, Patrick, because especially regarding poise, because that was one thing I was saying in the first couple of months. Like, man, he looks antsy in the pocket. Like, he doesn't look comfortable. And we know Green Bay has always historically had a great offensive line. Like, he just looks jittery, doesn't seem to be in a rhythm. Now he does. Like you said, he's playing with confidence. He's playing with a little bit of swagger. And again, you're in these last 5 games, I'm sure there's going to be 1, 2, maybe even 3 plays where you're like, ugh, God, that was not good, buddy. Not a good throw, not a good decision. But if he continues showing this type of upside, maybe I was wrong. I'm not going to say I was yet, because you guys know it does not crush me to my core unless it's a couple of things. Like if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, that will hurt. If the Ravens win the Super Bowl, that will really sting. Like certain things, the Yankees win the World Series. Oh, that'll be like a death blow. That'll suck. Okay. But I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. I'm not going to do that yet. But he's looking good. Props to Jordan Love. As far as Kansas City, let's talk about the Chiefs. So, again, they did lose the game 27-19. I was thinking about this with Kansas City. So, what a turn of events. If they had won that game against Green Bay, they'd be the 1 seed. They'd be a 4-way tie. Assuming Jacksonville wins tonight, I'll predict their game at the end of the show. They'd be in a 4-way tie. They'd be at the top of the conference. So, it'd be like, hey, their offense kind of up and down, more down in the last month, but number 1 seed, they could get home field advantage once again, and the road to the Super Bowl once again runs through Arrowhead Stadium. Now they're the 4 seed. So the good news, though, for the Chiefs is when you look at their schedule, just talk about the Packers' upcoming schedule, they have the Bills, so we'll see. But then they finish with Patriots, Raiders, Bengals without Burrow, and the floundering Chargers, who very well could be resting starters by Week 18. So a lot of winnable games for the Chiefs moving forward. That Bills game is going to be a dicey one. They're 2.5-point favorites, so Vegas is actually kind of liking Buffalo. But the point is, for the Chiefs, I'm starting to think a lot that Kansas City made a mistake that a lot of defending champions make. I'm starting to think they did. Think about the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, think about that team. Remember them? Tom Brady joined and they plugged Brady in, and they were this dominant team. Remember, they won the Super Bowl, ironically, against the Chiefs. And they infamously, it's the first time it's happened since I think like the 70s Raiders. It was the Raiders of the Steelers in the 70s were the last team to do this, where the Buccaneers brought back all 22 starters, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, brought all of them back to defend their crown in 2021. They failed to make the NFC title game. Ended up losing to the Rams, who won the Super Bowl. Heck, let's go to another sport. My Golden State Warriors 2022. Okay, we won the championship. It's the greatest show in the history of carving it up. I came in, it was a celebration on this show when my Warriors won it all in 2022. It's fantastic. Okay? My Warriors made a mistake that summer. Because, yeah, Steph, Clay, Draymond, that's your core. You're obviously not moving them. But there was a guy, a disgruntled superstar in Brooklyn who wanted out. Mr. Kevin Durant, who happened to have a history with the Golden State Warriors, won 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs there in his 3-year stint. Wanted out. Reportedly, the Warriors at least dabbled in the KD, put their foot in the KD waters, put their toes in it. And Steph Curry even openly acknowledged in an interview saying, hey, I'm down if he comes back. But the deal, a potential deal, whatever potential deal there was, fell through. Why? Because the Warriors didn't want to give up their younger stars. They didn't want to give up Wiggins and Poole and Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman. That was a mistake. They brought back the same group, and that, along with some major locker room issues, they failed to make the conference finals. I'm not saying that means I'm ruling out the Kansas City Chiefs or writing off the Chiefs in 2023. They can still win the Super Bowl. I firmly believe that. With that defense, with that quarterback, that coach, they can win the Super Bowl. But if you remember, there was a superstar. Maybe he's not a superstar quite anymore. He could be, depending on the quarterback play, because it's a dependent position. DeAndre Hopkins was released by the Arizona Cardinals. He was on the open market. Didn't have to give up anything for him except a contract, except money. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins was out there. And he made it clear, I want to play for a championship contender. Kansas City never even made an attempt to sign DeAndre. Because they said, hey, I mean, look, we won the Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster as our wide receiver number 1. We could do it again. Just bring back all the same guys. Assume the rookies will get better, which defensively they have. Offensively, not the case with Sky Moore, if you're thinking about that. Kadarius Toney is not making that jump that I thought he would make. And they're very good, but today probably not the best team in the AFC. Certainly the standings reflect that, and the eye test reflects that as well. I'm starting to wonder if the Chiefs made the same mistake as the 2020 Bucks and the 2022 Warriors, because you got to factor in as well. And the reason it is a mistake to bring the only way it isn't a mistake is if you're the 2017 Warriors, where it's Steph, KD, prime Klay Thompson, prime Draymond Green, exiting his prime Andre Iguodala, Steve Kerr, like, in my view, the greatest basketball team ever assembled. Well, it's hard to get much better than that. I mean, if you want to add like the sixth man of the year or something, whoever it was, I think Eric Gordon might have been the sixth man of the year. If you want to do that, okay, everybody's just chasing you. And realistically, there's only 1 to 2 teams, Cleveland, Houston at that time, that had a genuine shot at beating Golden State at that time. Every other instance, if you win a championship, celebrate. Yes, enjoy the moment. There's no question about that. You've earned that right. But also, as a front office, you got to recognize every team's gunning for us. And they're not just going to be, it's not going to be a situation where we get everybody's best shot next year because it's like, oh, we're playing the defending champions. We got to give it our best. And it's a measuring stick game for us. But no, other teams can be making moves in the offseason to compete with us, to beat us. I mean, Denver, the Denver Nuggets, this could plague them potentially, but Jokic is in his prime. Jamal Murray is in his prime. Most of their talent is in their prime. Could it hurt them? Could a team like maybe the Lakers come out and shock them? Maybe. Oklahoma City? Who knows? 1 trade away, potentially. This is kind of hurting the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, listen, Mahomes did not play well by Mahomes standards, and frankly, he hasn't had the Mahomes type of season. I saw the stat on NBC coming into the game last night. They said his pass rating was 96, which is a career low, which is like, golly, if that's a career low, how good is this guy? But Mahomes' stat line, again, 21 to 33, 210 yards, a touchdown, a bad fourth quarter interception where the ball just floated over Sky Moore and into the hands of Nixon. Passer rating, average, 79. QBR, pretty average as well at 53. So he was vastly outplayed by Love. I wonder if KC made the same mistake as the 2020 Bucks and the 2022 Warriors. Because, listen, you can bring back the same guys because they're like, hey, I mean, these are the guys that won it all for us last year. Who's to say they can't do it once again this season? You're completely ignoring the fact and not taking into account, yeah, but other teams got better too because they're trying to compete with you. It gives a little resting on your laurels vibes. And that I'm not accusing Brett Veach of not doing his job. That's not what I'm saying, but Hopkins was available. You're telling me DeAndre Hopkins would have said no to the Kansas City Chiefs and playing with Mahomes? Are you kidding me? He'd have signed the contract in a heartbeat. They didn't even make an attempt at him. I mean, it'd help if Rashee Rice was your number 2. I like Rashee Rice. I think he can be a number 1 in this league, but he's not now. But if he was your number 2, Travis Kelce not getting as much attention, maybe changes things. It allows for more. The defense can't respect the run as much with Isaiah Pacheco. It changes everything when you have a true number 1. I mean, I keep referencing the Dallas Cowboys today. I don't think the Cowboys have that talented of an offense. I think they have an awesome quarterback, a very good O-line, and an awesome receiver. But that awesome receiver opens it up for everybody. Cooks, Gallup, Tolbert, Ferguson. The Chiefs don't really have that guy. Kelce did last year to a certain extent, but Kelce's a year older now. He's 34 years of age at this point. Tight ends don't play into their late 30s and certainly don't play well. At least that's what the history tells us. We'll see what happens with the Chiefs moving forward. Again, the good news for Kansas City. We know Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they've had plenty of great battles over the past half decade going back and forth. So no reason to believe that won't be the case at Arrowhead next Sunday on CBS. But after that, for the Chiefs, Listen, very winnable schedule. A lot of, I mean, even if you include the Bills, they don't play a team who is currently a winning record the rest of the season. Buffalo, New England, Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers. So a lot of winnable games for the Chiefs moving forward. It's not panic mode, but it is it's a more than fair question to ask. Will this offense ever get back on its feet the rest of 2023? We'll see. DeAndre Hopkins sure would have helped. And it's a lose-lose for DeAndre, too, because he had to go to Tennessee, and now he's taking shots at his rookie quarterback, Will Levis. It's like both sides lost. Chiefs need number one. DeAndre needs an elite quarterback. They could sure use each other. Maybe who knows? Maybe they'll come together in 2024, or the Chiefs will go after somebody else. They're not getting Devontae Adams. There's no way the Raiders are trading Devontae. There's no way that happens. All right, let's look at the other games in Week 13 around the National Football League. I want to just go and get it out of the way. Just get it over with, okay? Get it over with, Bryson. Oh, Lord. So Cardinals beat the Steelers 24-10. Game wasn't even as close as the score could somewhat indicate, but Kyler Murray played pretty well. There was not one but two. I've never seen a game with 2 rain delays in my life. I've seen the occasional one, but I've never seen 2 rain delays. This game ended at probably 5 in the afternoon, and it was 4 hours of pure misery as a Steelers fan. Kenny Pickett went down. It's an ankle injury. He had surgery today. He's out for 2 to 4 weeks. Now we're stuck with Mitch Trubisky for the next month. So as bad as the offense was initially, it's going to be even worse. No disrespect to Trubisky, but any success he ever had in Chicago was a product of Matt Nagy and the system there. And we all know the Steelers, while they did fire Matt Canada, thank God it's, the decision had to be made for locker room purposes, but as much as I'm rooting for the 2 OCs now, the 2 kind of the 2 guys working in conjunction with one another, they're working with the same playbook. I mean, you can't change a playbook mid-season. Maybe you could during a bye. Steelers don't have a bye. They have like a mini bye because they play the Patriots on Thursday, and then they have 10 days before they go to Indianapolis. 9 days, even worse. 9 days before they go to Indianapolis. That's going to be a Saturday afternoon game between the Steelers and the Colts. It's a mess offensively in Pittsburgh. Now, look, you know what the crappy part about it is, as a Steelers fan? We're going to make the playoffs. By the way, I mean, look at this. Look at this. The standings now. Okay, in an AFC loaded with great quarterbacks. Heck, in a wild card race loaded with great quarterbacks. Herbert, Stroud, Russell didn't play well yesterday. Russell's been playing pretty well over the course of the season. Josh Allen's a great quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who'd have Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, are the 5 seed and have a bunch of tiebreakers. I mean, it's like a paragraph long. I'm looking at ESPN now. It's a paragraph long of tiebreakers that the Steelers have to currently be the 5 seed. Listen, to those that have been watching the Thursday night game, coming off of a matchup where you had Dak and Geno Smith going blow for blow, throw for throw, both quarterbacks were phenomenal. Now you're going to have oh, help me God. You're going to have Mitch Trubisky and you're going to have Bailey Zappi. Steelers are going to make the playoffs. I still truly believe that to my core, but oh gosh. This just sucks. This just straight up sucks. I said after the win against the Browns, I think the Steelers are about to win the division. Their schedule is pretty easy, and Baltimore's is brutal. And now we just fell 2 games back of Baltimore. So basically, the Steelers, to have any chance to win the AFC North, have to win out and hope Baltimore loses at least one time before they face off at M&T Bank Stadium in week 18. So. Oh, and by the way, Minka Fitzpatrick broke his hand. Even better. He just gets better as a Steelers fan. That was about as miserable as I've ever been watching a football game. That was, and by the way, I had season tickets. My family had season tickets for the Tennessee Volunteers 2017 football season. Went 0-8 in the SEC. Wasn't as miserable then as I was yesterday watching the Steelers. Just for context, it was a disaster. Even worse from an aesthetic standpoint, if you are a football fan, was the Chargers and the Patriots. The Patriots, who obviously do play my Steelers on Thursday. Chargers won that game, and I'm not kidding. If you haven't been keeping up with the NFL lately, the Chargers won by a final score of 6-0. So you can really think of it as using these teams as an example, but the LA Angels knocking out the Boston Red Sox, my Boston Red Sox, 6-0. And that's really what it looked like. But look, are we at all surprised that Kellen Moore, and I was talking to my buddy Grady Edwards about this. Shout out to Grady. And we were talking about this yesterday. And and he hit me up because he's a Panthers fan, and so they're looking for a coach. He's also a Patriots fan too. But he said, is it fair to say that Kellen Moore's a bad OC? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I've been saying this since last year. Justin Herbert's having one of his worst seasons. Dak had one of his worst seasons with Kellen Moore. Meanwhile, Dak with McCarthy is literally the MVP of the league. Herbert is 5-7, and people think he sucks. It's amazing what a coordinator and a coach can do, even for the best quarterbacks. Meanwhile, New England is 2 steps closer to getting Caleb Williams. Today, they probably have, or today, as the memes say, Drake May, you are a New England Patriot. But Bailey Zappi he was better than Mac Jones. He didn't throw the ball to the other team. He didn't throw a pick, so props to him. He didn't screw it up, but yeah. Oh, wow. But see, Patrick's just firing off the zingers, man, the nicknames. Whack Jones, Bailey Zappalot. Wow. Doesn't matter. Patriots need to draft a QB. The Patriots need to draft QB, and the Patriots need to get a new coach, a new OC, a new staff. And for the love of, draft a receiver. Quit drafting offensive linemen from Cornbread State. Gee whiz. I'll say this, though. I'll move on from New England because I know everybody's just riveted by this Chargers-Patriots game. But I hope Ezekiel Elliott gets released by New England as a courtesy and then goes back to Dallas for the chance to win a championship. Now, Zeke won't be Dallas's number one back. The only reason he was Dallas number one back the last few years is because of his contract. Pollard's obviously going to be is making more now, is going to make more should Zeke join Dallas. I think a reunion is very much in the cards. I think if Zeke goes to the Patriots front office, Zeke's agent goes to the Patriots front office, like, man, this isn't what my guy signed up for. Of course, then again, you can't talk to Dallas, so that'd be tampering. So I don't know. I do feel bad. As a former Cowboys fan, I do feel bad for Ezekiel Elliott. I really do. I think Dallas could use him as a power back, like in short down yardage situations, basically like they're Jalen Hurts on the brotherly shove. Colts, in what was a weird game, crazy game, beat the Tennessee Titans. I picked Tennessee to win this game, so it hurt me for sure. But Colts beat the Titans 31-28 in Nashville yesterday. Gardner Minshew mania continues. He had a pass rating over 100, couple touchdown passes, including the game-winning touchdown pass in OT. I think it was to Pittman, right? Was it Michael Pittman? Yes, it was. And Pittman had over 100 yards receiving in that game yesterday. 11 catches. I go back to carving it up in 2020. I've always liked Pittman coming out of the draft. Did Pittman come out in 2020 or 2021? I think it was 2020. I think. I could be wrong on that. I think it was 2020 or 2021. He came out of USC. I really liked the kid, and he's playing well. But Indianapolis, Minshew at quarterback. They lost Anthony Richardson back in, I think it was week 3, week 4, and here they are now 7-5 and in the playoffs with tiebreakers over teams below them like Houston. How about the AFC South, though? I mean, Tennessee is the worst team in the AFC South. They're 4-8, but Mike Vrabel, you never know. Tennessee up until yesterday was undefeated at home. That AFC South is something, man. Like Jacksonville, this is what I said about the Jaguars and why that win last week was critical against Houston was Jags aren't just fighting to get the 1 seed, which if they win today, they'll be the 1 seed going into week 14. That AFC South division is not over yet. So they're a game over Houston, a game over the Colts. All of a sudden, a division that was one of the worst is all of a sudden one of the most competitive. So shout out to the AFC South. It's amazing what quarterback play and coaching, by the way, can do for franchises. And that division has a lot of great quarterbacks. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It has 2 great quarterbacks in Lawrence and Stroud. I think 4 great coaches. I like all 4 coaches in that division. All 4. Steichen, Vrabel, who you saw yesterday. I really like DeMeco Ryans, and I love Doug Peterson. Like, when you have great quarterbacks and great coaches, man, it changes everything. The Steelers have a great coach. The problem is he refuses to adapt to the modern NFL. It drives me insane, and I love Tomlin, but it drives me insane. Speaking of Houston, they beat Denver 22-17 in what was a dandy of a game from Houston, Texas. Russell really struggled. 1 touchdown and not 1, not 2, 3 picks. Had a QBR from 0 to 100 of 20 and a passer rating of 53. Denver really wasn't able to establish much of a run game throughout the day. They had over 100 yards rushing, but only 3.9 yards per carry. Again, Russell struggled throughout the day. And this is what I've said about the Broncos. This is exactly why, by the way, that going into last week's Bryson's Best 10, I said, I know the Broncos are on a 5-game winning streak. I know Houston just lost to Jacksonville. I got Houston at number 10 and Denver just outside of it at number 11. And obviously the Texans validated that by beating the Broncos. But Denver, and Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit, but Denver was relying a lot on the run game and Russell as a game manager, which, by the way, you can win games like that. But, and by the way, the Broncos still have a shot, not a great one, but a shot at the playoffs. As for Houston, CJ Stroud was really good again, pass rating over 100. I don't know how he had a QBR of 17. I think that's crazy. That's crazy. But Stroud was good. Continues to pad his what should be unanimous Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year case. So props to him. Oh, okay. Patrick, got some breaking news here. Thank you very much, Patrick. He says, breaking news, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., and Marvin Harrison Jr. have been named Heisman Trophy finalists. Well, all 4 are incredibly deserving. And if I had to vote for Heisman, and I don't, but if I did, it would be Jaden Daniels. What that kid did with his arm, with his legs at LSU, Lord, unbelievable stuff. But Penix and Bo Nix has had a great season as well. So has Penix. But and I'll put Patrick's comment back up there. And I'd say Jaden Daniels won't be great in the NFL because I think he has. Obviously, he's got the physical capabilities. He could be this generation's. He could be the next Lamar Jackson, just bigger. But Marvin Harrison Jr., best receiver by far in the draft, generational talent at that position. Bo Nix, experience, very good, should be ready day one in the NFL. And Michael Penix Jr., you guys know I love Drake May. I know all the scouts have Drake May above Michael Penix Jr. I'd take Penix as my second best QB to Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. What he can do inside the pocket, outside the pocket, arm angles, his arm strength, he's got all the capabilities to be a great NFL quarterback. And obviously, a lot of this depends on where you land, unless you're a Joe Burrow or an Andrew Luck or a Trevor Lawrence, a generational talent at that position. But shout out to all 4 of those. Thank you for letting me know that, Patrick. Lions, and I half-jokingly say my Lions because I picked them to get to the NFC title game. They did beat the New Orleans Saints, so after every Detroit Lions win, you know what time it is. Dan Campbell, Oprah Winfrey, what do we got here?
Kneecap.
It never gets old. Never gets old. But kneecaps were bitten. Certainly early. With the Detroit Lions and the New Orleans Saints, 33-28, the Lions won that game. Jared Goff, a couple touchdown passes, QBR of 76. Listen, Derek Carr exited the game, which, man, poor kid. And I shouldn't say poor kid. He's in his 30s. But Derek Carr is a guy that I've always loved, always defended. It's time for Dennis Allen to go. I've been saying that. I picked the Saints to win the division because I thought they had obviously the best quarterback, the best roster. But I said if they miss, it's going to be because of Dennis Allen, because his resume as a head coach is about as bad as it gets, going back to Oakland when he was with the Raiders, back when the Raiders were in Oakland, and then last year with the Saints. It's not good stuff whatsoever. Jameis Winston came in, replaced him. And listen, the Saints made a last-second comeback attempt. The Lions went up 21-0 halfway through the first quarter, and they were able to hang on at the end. I'm telling y'all, I said after the Lions lost to Green Bay, I said, I'm not panicking about the Lions offense. They've got too many great players. They're too smart offensively at coordinator. Dan Campbell, they're going to get it right offensively. Defensively, though, again, this is another dud. And that Ravens game was probably a precursor to what was to come when they gave up 38 to the Ravens. They gave up 38 to the Chargers, 26 to the Bears, 29 to the Packers, 28 to the Saints. Like, this Lions team, and a lot of folks thought Detroit would be this before the season, in the sense that, yeah, they can win the NFC South, NFC North. And listen, they got a 3-game lead with 5 games to go. The Lions are going to win the division, but they're going to have to do so by winning a bunch of shootouts, which early in the season, I'm thinking, man, they're putting up a lot of points offensively, defensively. They're darn near shutting some teams out. I'm like, I like what I'm seeing. Went to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. And I like some of the personnel in Detroit's, and I like Detroit's coaching, but not like what I've seen from the Lions defense. Falcons beat the Jets 13-8, and I'm not going to give you a breakdown of this game because I didn't watch, and I'm not going to lie to you and act like I did, okay? Not going to do that. Terrible game, and that was the bet of the week, was to take the under in, I think it was like 33.8 or something. Or not 33.8, 33.5 was the over-under, I think, for Jets and Falcons. That to take the under pretty easily. Dolphins knocked off the Commanders, did so in dominant fashion. Tua Tagovailoa, a pass rating of 141, QBR 90. Again, Washington maintains the worst scoring defense in the NFL. Listen, Ron Rivera will be gone at season's end. Maybe they replace him with Eric Bieniemy. I still, listen, Sam Howell didn't have a very good day at the office against Miami's improving defense. I'm telling you, I'm liking what Miami's doing defensively over the last month, especially since they got Jalen Ramsey back from injury and some of their other corners. But listen, if you look at Washington, I like Sam Howell, really like some of their weapons, but they traded away their two best defensive players. They're going to fire their coach at season's end, and we'll see what the Commanders do at the end at this offseason and in the free agency and the draft and whatnot. But listen, Miami did what they were supposed to. They went in the end against an inferior team and absolutely dominated from start to finish. And Tyreek Hill, I saw my man Ryan Flowers commented his top 3 MVP frontrunners. Tyreek he had at number 2 behind Dak Prescott, and Tyreek Hill 5 catches, $157 and 2 touchdowns. So just padding that stat sheet, padding that MVP case. Tampa Bay beat Carolina 21-18. Again, another game that I straight up did not watch. I will have to say congratulations to Mike Evans on, I think this is 10 straight years with 1,000 yards receiving. Mike Evans, his 10th year in the NFL, all 10 seasons, over 1,000 yards receiving. So shout out to Mike Evans. And by the way, it's not like Mike Evans has had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. He had Brady for 3 years, but then he's had a bunch of guys throwing the ball the last few years. But listen, Tampa Bay right in the mix of that terrible NFC South race, only a game back of the Atlanta Falcons, who beat the Jets yesterday. Speaking of Jets fans, just now in the comments, my man John Rivera of the Fan Perspective podcast. What's up, John? Johnny says, Miami versus San Francisco Super Bowl. Well, that would be interesting because that'd be assistant in Mike McDaniel versus the teacher in Kyle Shanahan. That would be fun, and both teams play very similar styles of football, although the Niners far more physical and the far better roster, although that's not a shot at Miami. They have a better roster than everybody in the league. But again, I'm going to, you know me, John, and you know me, audience. I go down with the ship. I believe in pick integrity. I'm going to go down with the ship. Although I don't think the ship's necessarily sinking. It's in crisis mode for one of the teams, being Kansas City. But I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, that they beat the Cowboys in that game. Feel great about my Cowboys pick. Although, if Dallas faces San Francisco, yikes. If anybody faces San Francisco. Rams beat the Browns. Joe Flacco started, by the way, 36-19. Joe Flacco started. Played okay, given the fact that he was just signed by the team, had a couple touchdowns. But Matthew Stafford is quietly having an awesome season. 3 touchdowns passing, pass rating of 110. Kyron Williams keeps doing what he's doing on the ground. But Stafford, again, his numbers aren't off the charts. But again, Puka Nacua, who unfortunately got hurt in the game, and my man Cooper Kupp, my twin, Cooper Kupp, doing what they've been doing. Kupp didn't have that eventful of a game. He did have a touchdown reception. But listen, the Rams have been running the football effectively, and the Rams are right in the midst of that NFC wildcard picture. The problem is they lost to the Packers in Lambeau about a month ago, and their schedule is far more difficult than Green Bay. So that's going to be taken into account as well. So there you go. That's your Week 13 recap around the NFL. And we conclude Week 13 with an AFC clash between the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are hosting their first Monday Night Football game since 2011. Jacksonville is favored -10 here at home. Jaguars favored -10, and Trevor Lawrence has been playing really good football over the past couple of weeks. Again, people panicked about the Jaguars. Oh my God, they lost 34-3 to the Niners. Yeah, the Niners tend to do that to great teams. They dominated Dallas. They dominated Jacksonville. They dominated Philadelphia just yesterday. So I said about Jacksonville, like, don't overreact too much to this loss. San Francisco is just better than everybody in the NFL, and it's their word, and we're all just living in it. But Trevor Lawrence was great against the Tennessee Titans, had a pass rating of 119, and then last week against the Houston Texans had a couple of careless plays. He needs to cut back on those, but had a pass rating of 90 and had 2 touchdowns, one through the air and one on the ground. You guys know I absolutely love Trevor Lawrence and what he brings to the table as an athlete, as a leader, and as a quarterback. The Jacksonville's defense, one of the best in the NFL in terms of taking the football away. By the way, least penalized team in the NFL. So, this is a team that doesn't beat itself up. It's not a team that does that. And again, first Monday Night Football game for Jacksonville in 12 years, or at least the first Monday Night Football game that they've hosted in 12 years. There's going to be a buzz in that stadium. The Jaguars haven't been this good. Probably, I think this is better than the Saxonville team that almost won the Super Bowl in 2017. This is the best Jacksonville Jaguars team since the Mark Brunell days. in the Tom Coughlin days. Didn't think I knew that, did you? But Jacksonville doing what they've been doing offensively and defensively. Listen, Cincinnati is reeling right now. No Joe Burrow. The defense is struggling mightily right now. So again, there's only so much you can do as a team. So we'll see if they're able to make it competitive. My hopes aren't terribly high, so I'll go with the Jaguars to win pretty convincingly. 31-10. This Jaguars defense continues to stay hot. And look, it's Jake Browning at quarterback. No shot at Mr. Browning, but I don't have terribly high expectations. Trevor does his thing, and the Jaguars at night's end will be the number 1 seed currently in the AFC. Listen, I picked Jacksonville to get to the AFC title game, and I feel pretty good about that right now. Isn't that funny that we all saw the AFC as the clearly superior conference in the NFC? But yeah, and I think the AFC is deeper than the NFC with teams that I think can potentially win the Super Bowl or even get to a conference title game. NFC, there are literally 4 teams I could see getting into a conference title game, 3 to winning the Super Bowl. But they're all, I shouldn't say take Detroit out, because I think they can make a conference title game. I don't think they can win the Super Bowl. Take those 3 teams, San Francisco, Dallas, Philly. I think all of them would be the best team in the AFC today. I truly believe that. Quarterback play, coaching, defense, like what all the 3 of those teams are doing. Don't panic on the Eagles. Niners, man, oh man. In Kansas City, you should have signed D-Hop this offseason. You made the mistake a lot of champions make. You got complacent. Listen, it's human nature. It happens, but they got complacent. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button. Helps the channel grow exponentially. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by Super Bowl 58, which is February the 11th. We are this close. I mean, folks, this close to getting to 600 subscribers. So we're more than halfway there. We're trucking along to the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much. Be sure to tell your friends about it, your family about it, your friends' family, your family's friends, the whole bit. Tell everybody you know about Carving It Up and to subscribe to the show. And if you're here and you haven't subscribed, hey, it takes a couple seconds. Hit that bigger subscribe button down there. And then boom, you are part of the Carving It Up family. Just as important, go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast. We got it all here at the Grid Network. Got some awesome content creators, so please check all of them out. My man Patrick, who writes for the network, check his stuff out on the Grid's website, gridnetwork.com. Great weekend of football, weird weekend of football, crappy weather. I mean, just here in Tennessee, man, it's nasty storm down south here in Tennessee and just across the country, especially in the Northeast. They dealt with the brunt, the bulk of it seems like, at least watching football yesterday. But College Football Playoff Committee, you got it right. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. You did your thing. All right, see y'all on Wednesday's show. Bryson's Best 10, Carving Up the Context, the whole bit. It's going to be a fun show. See y'all then at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time, Twitter and YouTube on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Have to address it. All right, see y'all then. Great weekend of football. And who knows what's to come. See y'all on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. Should have come to Boston, Shohei. I'm sorry, you should have come. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.